Good afternoon, everyone. This is such a great panel of speakers that we have here, and I'm really excited about the discussion. We have a real variety of perspectives from different parts of the industry to address this key issue of workplace wellness. There are so many external things affecting employees today, whether it's personal challenges or issues in the broader society. And there's some really interesting approaches that companies are taking to help their employees navigate these challenges and uncertainties. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from our speakers today about what they're bringing to the table and some of the latest thinking and ideas. So first off, I'd love if each of the panelists could introduce themselves, and let's start here with John.
Perfect, thanks. My name is John Lowe. I'm from DailyPay. I support the HR program there. A little bit about DailyPay. We offer a service that allows employees to be able to have earned wage access. We operate across the US. There's about 750 of us, and so really trying to go and work on being able to remove some of those friction points that exist based off of historical payroll systems.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, nice to meet all of you. My name is Steve Lester. I'm a cardiologist. I work at Mayo Clinic. I've been there for about 25 years. Number of roles. I worked in corporate business development for a while. I now am the medical director for a large economic development project called Discovery Oasis. I run and started a MedTech accelerator program, bringing in companies from all over the world, early seed Series A companies to bring their products, and then have the privilege of working in our contracting and payer and working on a complex care program to support the health and well-being of employees.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kimberly Rath. I am a VP of HR for PulteGroup, which if you have ever shopped for a new home, you probably have heard of. We're an organization of about 6,000 employees, and I support our corporate functions, which include our compliance, project management, and people analytics.
Hello, everyone. I'm DeRetta Rhodes. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Culture Officer for the Atlanta Braves. And what that means is that I have actually the remit of human resources, which we call people capital, communications, PR, our community affairs organization, and the Atlanta Braves Foundation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Josh Crafford. I'm the VP of Learning and Development for our technology and operations groups. At Synchrony Financial, we are about number 170 on the Fortune 500 and number 19 on Great Places to Work.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So for the first question, I'd love to hear each of your perspectives on why workplace well-being is such an important focus today and what employee wellness means to you and your organization. So how about we go back to Josh to start.
Great. Thank you. So wellness is more than just the programs that we have, but we do try to cover everything from our employees' needs of offering daycare all the way through to elder care for your parents or loved ones, different programs of EAP, where if you need to connect with a therapist on any topic, you get a number of sessions, as well as we have a bunch of different coaches. The other important part is the culture. So where I had mentioned, like, we're number 19 on Great Places to Work, we have multiple ERG groups or diversity networks that anybody can join. And it really helps we feel like a family, and we refer to ourselves as a family, and it's not something cheesy. It's something that every employee genuinely feels.
For the Atlanta Braves, it's interesting. Before the pandemic, it looked very different than what it does today. And so now we view wellness as a strategy. And it's not only a strategy for our staff, but it's also a strategy for fans. So the one good thing that we have is we have what we call a wellness room. A lot of times people are saying, oh, is it lactation? It's not just lactation. It is for individuals to be able to go. And if you think about where we are now, where we were before COVID, telemed has risen in terms of how individuals needed to be able to take care of themselves personally. And so we have individuals that use that room. For not only that, we've had situations where, if any of you all are baseball fans, you know that we have 81 games in town every season, when in season. And so that means we have staff that works those games. We actually have individuals have the opportunities to go there and take a relax break if they need to. So we have that. We also realized there were other initiatives that we really needed to focus on, one of which we partner with two very strong partners of ours, one being Bright Horizons, that gives us an opportunity to do concierge services, whether it is for daycare, whether it is for study groups for kids, whether it is for elderly care. We also have a tremendous partnership with Futurist, and it is around financial wealth and financial support from the standpoint of what are the things that individual needs from a financial wellness perspective. If you've come to the ballpark, we also have within the ballpark a partnership that we have with Northside Hospital, where we have another place for individuals to be able to go if they need to for any type of wellness care. So it's something for us that when I think about it, and shamelessly I say to people, I didn't think about the view of wellness before the pandemic. And I think after the pandemic, it became a part of engagement for our employees and making sure that we were creating environments, situations, strategies that people felt like we were truly taking care of their whole self. And so that's something that has become very important for us for all of our programs. I'm going to have to lean a little bit on Joshua from the standpoint that we do have employee resource groups as well. And so we make sure that we have that opportunity for individuals, again, to feel welcomed and create those type of environments. Not only do we have the Atlanta Braves, but we also have the Battery Development and our spring training facility as well. So we have to think about not only the location that's here, but our other locations as well. So we try to be mindful of that for everything that we do to drive initiatives for wellness for both our staff and our fans.
So for us, what's interesting is we build homes. And so if you think about how wellness comes to life for you, a lot of what you do or how you replenish or how you take care of your well-being is done in your home. And so for us, it's similar to you. It is a strategy that encompasses how we take care of our employees, helps us to build great places where people live and they can take care of their own well-being. So really, for me, when I think about wellness or well-being, it is the health of an organization, right? And I know I'm in construction, but it is really the foundation. It is, how do people show up for work? How do they bring their best thought leadership? If we're putting into them, I always feel like we're going to get so much more. So it has to be a part of your people strategy.
Good. Well, when I think, Kelly, about employee wellness, I think it's about creating a supportive work environment that really empowers each employee to thrive in all aspects of their lives. So employee wellness has become a much more complex discussion for us. It's now about the role we as an organization have, not only about promoting well-being, but in fact, how do we optimize our business performance by incorporating well-being into the design of work. And so our wellness programs have become much more complex now, where we're not just looking at the employee who at work, but also the employees in work. And I think you've touched a little bit upon this already. We create certain adjacent programs, the financial well-being, the physical, mental well-being of our employees at work. But the in-work has become much more of a social construct for us. I heard this in a discussion at 11:30 or so about leading from the heart. It was the same kind of thought, which is, how do we identify and allow people to have purpose, meaning, and belonging at work? So we create these more comprehensive strategies around both, because we have 70,000+ employees at Mayo Clinic, and we really want to support them not just at work, but in work as well.
Yeah, I think that the idea of wellness as it relates to the benefits and the way that we engage our employees, I think our thinking really starts with the employee. I think that when you think about wellness, it is probably the most, in a lot of cases, nebulous benefit that we have, but also probably the benefit that we need to be most agile with. And so DailyPay, we are like a fintech. We've got more millennials than we have anyone else, more Gen Zs than we have Gen Xers. And so one of the things that we think about when we're thinking about our wellness programs is this idea of meeting our employees where they are, but also recognizing that there's a very high degree of heterogeneity about what it is that our employees need based off of where they are in their life cycle. And so when we think about this idea of wellness and the programs that we like to go and put forward, it typically starts from the employee first, and it's more of a pull factor than it is a push factor of what it is that, from an HR perspective, we want to go and put onto paper. And more so about being able to go and meet the needs of our employees based off of where they are from a life cycle perspective. And so things like ERGs, I think, represent opportunities where we can understand discrete communities. But the underlying idea is really understanding the need and then being able to cultivate a program around that creates value for our employees. So.
Great, thank you. We've already heard some really interesting ideas and concepts about wellness. I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of the programs your companies have launched to help employees cope with the pressures they're under in the workplace and beyond. Josh, how about you start?
Yeah, great. So I touched on it a little bit. We try to meet our employees where they're at, and some might be, starting off with families, and they might need different daycare. So we have a program where we offer a number of days up to a certain dollar amount, where if something happens and you need to put your kid in daycare, we'll cover you. I think it's around 60 days or so. And then the same thing if you have aging parents that you're taking care of on the other spectrum, where we will have nurses that can go into the house. They can help even just keep them company, not just take their blood pressure or other things that go along with it. We have a number of coaches that are accessible to everybody, and it covers everything from ADHD and anxiety to nutrition, and everything in between. And if one of those, you don't want to do something internally, then we have it where you can, within our healthcare network, you can pick a therapist to go and talk to on any topic that you want. Like I said, that's also available to your immediate family as well, because we understand that if one of the people in my household is dealing with something and it's still indirectly affecting me and my ability to do work and my ability to concentrate. The other thing is we went virtual and we stayed virtual, where we do have hubs and we give the option of, if you want to go in and connect, great, then you can go in and hotel cube. But if you want to stay at home and that works for you, then we give you that option as well.
Kimberly, I'd love to hear about Pulte.
Yeah, I think one of the areas that I'm really proud that we focus is this idea, and I'm sure many in the room have heard this, of having a friend at work and how that connects you to the organization. So when individuals come in, one of the things that we do is we give everybody who starts a peer mentor. And what we hope to do in doing that is cultivate a relationship where somebody immediately comes in if they have questions or they're not comfortable asking their boss, that they have somebody that they're connected to. Another thing that we do that I think sometimes is overlooked in organizations is we really think about space and the kind of the environment that somebody's in. So we recently did a renovation, and we were really intentional about we were lucky enough to have outdoor space and what we did with that space. So some of our outdoor spaces are made for, if you want to go have lunch, but we also have another space that's like big, comfy cushions, and you can, if it's a beautiful day outside and you need air, if you think about all the things that come with wellness and you want to have some space that you can do that, we have rooms that, people can go and have quiet space. It's maybe not as well known as it could be or as vibrant as it could be, so some areas of opportunity there. But those are things that we do, is try to really think about the environment that our folks need and meet that need.
Great. Well, these are all some excellent programs and ideas. Stephen, you bring an interesting perspective from the Mayo Clinic. I'd love to hear from you about how partnering with a healthcare organization can help a company support its workforce in particular.
Kelly, thanks for the question. I would say, Pulte makes beautiful homes, so I'm sure you make beautiful spaces for people to work in. I guess as I listen, I just started to realize that as we begin to accept that there's great complexity of wellness programs, strategic partnerships with groups that bring a particular level of expertise, I think it just allows you to expand your program offerings and support, basically to scale your programs. And also when working with strategic partners, whether it's a financial institution or a healthcare institution, it perhaps enhances the credibility and perceived value of the program. But what I realize is that when you partner with these types of organizations, it allows you to be innovative. Innovative to create programs specific to the needs of your employees, but also to benefit risk-free from the innovation that comes from the parent organization. So we're a healthcare organization, right? So Mayo Clinic, we want to support the physical well-being of your employees, but man, healthcare is a big job. And as humans, there's two things we really want, right? One is we want to be kept as healthy as possible. And the other is, if you're sick and broken, can you fix me when I'm broken, right? And at Mayo Clinic, our signature area of performance is really in complex and serious illness, sort of that second job. When people are unwell, can we work with you, your organizations, to structure and create a unique program specific to the needs of your employees? And it turns out to be a very small percentage of your employee base that hopefully has complex and serious illness, maybe 5, 6, 7% of your employee base, which quite frankly probably absorbs 70, 80, 90% of your healthcare spend. And can we work collectively and creatively to construct a program to provide that sort of hope and healing for those in need when their sort of healthcare journeys get a little bit turbulent?
Fascinating. Another thing that I would love to hear your thoughts about is there's a lot of focus these days at the corporate level on how to address financial wellness in the workplace. And John, I know that that's an area that you're quite familiar with. I'd love to hear about why that's so important. Your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I feel like this is a bit of a layup, but okay. One of the things that so my background wasn't always in fintech. I spent 7.5 years at Amazon supporting FC populations. So when everyone hears Amazon, they're like, oh, you worked in big tech and you were in Seattle. Not the case. These are like large facilities of hourly employees. And one of the things that I noticed, and especially after COVID, was this acceleration to a much more, a newly evolved vision of what work looks like. And so 25 years ago, most people had one job. It's quite predictable, standard hours, 40 hours a week, 2,080 hours a year, and a pretty high degree of predictability around it. And so one of the things that we've seen, especially with the emergence of the gig economy, and again, speaking to this idea of like millennials and Gen Zs and the way that they interface with the workplace, is that there's actually, the number of people who have more than one job is actually quite high. And that creates a very high degree of stressors. So, I mean, if you are a bartender and you were a bartender around Christmas, you probably made a killing. But come January, when you're working your part-time job and you're also bartending on the side, there's this degree of very high variance that we start to see. And so one of the things that we think about when we look at this idea of earned wage access, but also disrupting this idea that 2 weeks is the right cadence to be able to be paid, is a recognition of the fact that the 2 week two week pay cadence makes sense from a very specific point of view, which is that you have the float to carry you through that 2 week horizon, and that you only have one input of income. And so one of the things that we think about with earned wage access, and one of the reasons on why we view it as being a material decreaser or stressor, especially for people who have multiple roles, is that it allows that degree of flexibility to be able to go and tap into resources that otherwise would not be available. And the tools that currently exist within that space are actually like terrible. They're very they're payday loans, they're overdraft fees, they're NSFs, those types of things. And so being able to offer access to tools that now technology allows us to be able to go and offer, I think represents like an easy way for us to recognize the evolution of what work looks like. And again, meet our employees where they are, full well knowing that the traditional view of what employment looks like continues to evolve.
So can I just add something to that? John and I had some time earlier this week, and learning more about what they do was really like eye-opening for me. So we do follow the traditional pay, But if I think about the population that works with us and the needs of that population, like there may be things that we're not even thinking about or not aware of, but I would encourage everybody in this room to think about, if you're having to pay to get your check sooner and you're paying fees and like ways that, how do we as an organization lean in and say, you know what, we can make this easier for you. It may not apply to everybody, but to who it applies to is really, really valuable. And so I just left our conversation thinking, wow, this is something great that I want to take back to my leaders, and just, if nothing else, it helps us to think differently about wellness and what we can, offer to our employees.
Yeah, and I would say that I think that wellness programs always come from a good place, but they also come from a very specific vantage point. And I think that really understanding, when we go back through and audit our wellness programs around what is the ROI and do we create value for our employees, really challenging ourselves to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we offer, on paper, phenomenal benefits, but what is the utilization rate, and does this necessarily equitably apply to our workforce? And so, again, I think one of the things that's exciting, especially within the HR tech space, is that technological curve continues to move up into the right, and things that historically we were not able to go and do are now within the realm of possibility, right? And so, again, being able to go and pass along that value to our employees is fantastic.
And I actually think the component of financial wellness was not something that we thought about 5 years ago. I mean, I don't think we really considered that as something that you would say that you as an organization are responsible for. And I know for us, it became really critical as we started thinking about these specific things were happening to families and our staff and what they were going through during COVID, and what are the things that we can then make it more acceptable and more comfortable for them to deal with what they're dealing with. And that also increases their engagement. One of the things that we looked at, and we as an organization at one point in time, this time last year, were spun off as our own entity. So we're our own business organization, one of the few, if not only, baseball clubs in the country. And we were able to really reassess our 401k. And a lot of times people don't think about that as being part of the financial wellness for individuals. And we have extended it to our game day staff and our part-time staff, and they auto-enroll once they start. And so that way, when we come in and not only talk to individuals about either coming in as a new hire, or we start talking about different initiatives and programs, we also put together the wraparound support for them going through this Truist program, for them to think about, how do I save? How do I do all of these things to work outside of my job? And I just don't think that was something, I can tell you, I did not think about that as an HR professional 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think the whole concept of wellness has shifted in such a different way that it's something that we have to consider. And it can't be just around healthcare. It can't be just around vacation. It has to be around a gamut of individuals that they are engaging in their whole lives of what they're experiencing.
I was just listening, and it's exciting to hear because, obviously I come from the healthcare perspective. I promise I'll make this because it just, one of the things that we learned, certainly in healthcare and obviously elsewhere during the pandemic, which we always knew, but we never lived it, that when preconceived constraints are diminished, there's opportunity for rapid progress through innovation and creative new opportunities. And we just accepted them. Think of the way we all receive healthcare today. It's very different than 5 years ago. Virtual care opportunities, retail care opportunities. And what limited our ability to do that, quite frankly, was regulatory compliance licensure issues, which were all, once those completely went away, we can do it, and now they start to come back. But needless to say, what it allowed us all to do is to create new opportunities. It's kind of a future back planning, right? So you dream about what you want in the future, and therefore you are unencumbered by current reality. You can overcome existing rules and existing metrics and existing norms. And then, of course, you have to sort of go back and retroactively fit them into actionable milestones and metrics. But we finally got to take what we envisioned for the future, whether it be in the healthcare space and planning homes or how we get paid or the delivery of healthcare, we're actually see that able to materialize, and we don't want to stop that innovation. And that's why it's sort of fun to sit with all of this sort of diverse group of clinical expertise and then work with organizations to find those creative ways, whether it's for healthcare needs, whether it's for how we get paid or managing their 401ks or however it might be. So it's kind of fun to listen, and I appreciate the conversation.
This is a really, really interesting discussion on different ways to think about workplace wellness and employee wellness and different ideas and programs. And I think it's interesting what you said, Stephen, about preconceived constraints, because one of the things I was wondering is what are the biggest challenges that employees face when they're considering participating in wellness programs? And how do you combat that as an employer? And how does the employer then measure success?
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to hear what others have to say, but when we define, it's great to go for it. When you define success, I don't think there's a single parameter of success. I think it's a sort of a combination of a number of things that come together. So for us, it would be things like clinical outcomes. It would be operational success. There'd be financial success. So clinical outcomes is pretty easy, right? Do people live longer? Do they have greater mobility, improved quality of life? Are they having less hospitalizations and downstream utilization of healthcare resources? The operational side for us is a little bit about care management in healthcare. Like, are we identifying the right individuals and then referring them at the right time? It's about resource utilization in the sense, are we using best practices? And then, are the employees engaged and are they satisfied? And then the financial success, which is exciting for us, honestly, because we think we know we make people live longer and feel better. We're constantly iterating and developing greater operational success. But unequivocally, with the organizations and companies we work with, we unequivocally save downstream healthcare expense for self-funded employers and other groups. So that would be success. The other part was why people would have trouble getting into. I think, quite frankly, our experience, and perhaps you see that for the programs that you run, is, are the employees aware of the programs? And do they know how to engage in the programs? Are there financial barriers to engaging in a program? So a healthcare program. So we really work to sort of support and waive co-pays and deductibles and help, if required, for travel benefits. And I guess, lastly, they want to make sure that there is anonymity and trust within the program. And in healthcare, of course, that's a very important thing. So I think those may be some of the barriers, but interested what you all think.
I personally think that there's, this, like if I just focus on mental health for a second, right? The stigma that comes with it. Mm-hmm. And I think did it again, sorry, y'all. I'm a big talker with my hands. So. It's okay. But I think there is this, what we have to do is create some sort of normalization in our workplaces that it's okay, like it'll be anonymous. We can help you through this. It's a safe space, right? Do we have leaders that can openly talk about what they're experiencing to model that behavior? I think some of it is like awareness is there, but your culture and your organization, how you let that come out really matters. And it matters so much that some people feel like they can never share what's really going on in their lives. And then that creates a barrier for us getting them the support that they need. So.
Yeah, if I can add to that. So when we rolled out the EAP program where you can talk to a therapist and you can get X amount of sessions, a lot of people weren't taking advantage of it. And during one of our quarterly town halls, our chief HR officer came on and said, please utilize this. I use this. And he listed some of the reasons why he uses it and gave a very personal story behind that, trying to connect to people to say, it is safe. We want you to use this. This is there for you. We're not going to hold it against you. We want to help you in any way possible, and we've set up all these programs. And then even with our different networks, so I help lead our Enabled Plus network. It used to be called People with Disabilities. We changed the name. But we had a very senior C-suite person talk about one of his personal experiences that said it is safe to share. And creating that culture of inclusion, regardless of where you sit or where you are in life, is really important. So we had a lot of senior leaders share their personal stories to prove from a senior level that it's safe to. And that opened up a lot of people participating in more programs and becoming more engaged and just kind of letting their guard down to work as their authentic selves.
And I spoke earlier of the wellness room. It's really funny. When we initially started this, people were like, I'm not signing up because who else is going to know I'm in this room? And so the way that we rolled it out, well, there were two things. Where we designed it and put it was in a place that people don't know that you're walking down that hall to go into their room. The other thing is that the way that you get into room, there's a lock. You have your own, at the time that you are actually wanting to reserve it, you have your own special key, special code to go into the room. The other thing that I think that we really needed to say when we rolled it out was that we want you to be able to feel comfortable, and there is anonymity in this particular process because we have individuals that didn't want people to know if they were going through cancer treatments or radiation, or they were doing telemed and mental health telemed. And so we had to roll it out that way so people felt very comfortable. They understand that the way that it's assigned, nobody's looking at the list to see who's going. I will tell you what we found is that once we rolled it out and individuals started feeling comfortable, we now have to say, okay, the rooms, we're sold out at this point in time for people to come in. And now we're considering another one to ensure that we have the proper availability for individuals. But it is so important for individuals to feel comfortable that they can go through these very private, scary situations and then know that the organization is supporting them in a very meaningful way. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we also ended up doing is sending out surveys to understand, is there utilization? Are you utilizing it? If you did. So we ended up having individuals coming out and saying, you know what, I'd love for me to be able to say to other people why I use it, what I'm going for, and how I felt comfortable with it. So we've also put it out so that individuals can do testimonies for the wellness room, which has been tremendous. The other thing that we've partnered with is Cigna, one of our partners, they come in and do things for us as well in terms of utilizing and understanding what the wellness room is for. And I will tell you, this came out of a conversation, a working group of individuals that said, people need somewhere to go, and they don't feel comfortable having to go outside in the parking lot, whatever the case may be. And so it was listening to what our staff said, implementing what they requested, and ensuring that we put it in such a way that they felt like they were safe to be able to actually utilize the room.
And I think as we just thinking about over the last 4 years, what we've done in the workspace, like we work 5 days and then we, go abruptly home and then we come back, in some form or fashion, maybe we don't, but I feel like, but you've done a good job of creating a space that somebody can go to. So think about again, when you're at home, if you're having a tough day, you can just go, I need 10 minutes to meditate on my couch. Yeah. You're creating spaces as we think about, people coming back into the workspace. I think those are the ideas that we need, as leaders to be talking about is what do our employees need when they come back that maybe they were getting at home that they're going to miss, right? And I think that's
And I love the way that you said about creating space. So when we designed the room, we had actually our design team come and take a look at it. So it feels like a living room. When you go in, it's a sofa, it's TV, it's a refrigerator. It feels like a living room. And so we, again, wanted to make sure we were intentional in that process so that people felt like they could go in.
I was listening today to some of the comments, and this whole thing is exciting, and I don't want to I will plagiarize what our colleagues were saying earlier this morning, but what I'm going to take home a little bit was about sort of what leadership is around emotional intelligence. And it's really about, it leads with empathy, and that there were many layers of empathy. So those that talked about this today, thank you for helping me to sort of gain my thoughts around that. But part of that is about active listening. And what that means is you're listening for the needs of that individual, not for your particular needs. And then providing all this sort of safe space. And I think that's really important as we're really trying to engage employees, because ultimately, as I said at the very beginning, I don't apologize for saying it, but we're all doing wellness because we want to optimize the business performance of our organizations by incorporating well-being into the design of work. So it's not lip service, it's really what we want to do, and we want to give people that safe, comfortable opportunity to engage, be heard, and know that the organization is here to support them and their well-being, which is both in the workplace, but also when they get home around the things mental, physical, financial well-being.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the things that comes front of mind to me when I think about this idea of wellness space is that this is actually still very new, right? And so when you rewind again, 5 years ago, this looked quite different. It was probably quite transactional. It was like, do you offer a 401k program? And if you go back another 5 years from that, it was probably quite different again. Like, do you have short-term disability, right? So, and so I think in my thinking about how these come together, there's two things that I find is actually frustration points, both myself as somebody who should be leading the charge within the area. One of which is that programs are often quite fragmented. So when you go to EAP, there's like an encyclopedia of offerings that, like, if you were to go and apply a quiz to your organization, like, the probability of people actually knowing that it's there is low, meaning that the net yield that you're getting from an ROI perspective and corporate dollars spent is quite low. And then the second thing is modeling the behavior. And I think that this comes back to Josh's point around, I don't know what it looks like to go and use these. And this is something that's new and novel to our employee base. And so more and more, I think that it's not necessarily about the buffet of offerings that we have. It's about being able to facilitate, one, the fact that our employees know that there's a buffet there, and then two, how to go and grab a plate and a spoon and start it kind of like lunch today, right? So, but again, I think that is part of this idea of it's new, it's evolved, but continues to evolve, and so the thinking around the way that we characterize that to our employees. And we lead from the front as to the utilization is equally as important as the whether or not there's string beans or mashed potatoes in the buffet.
And I think the fragmentation that has happened, because it truly has been, it was a fragmentation of it was just health benefits, or it was just 401k, or it was just DAP. I think one of the things that we've tried to do is show an alignment, that all of this is in alignment in terms of an entire wellness initiative, our entire wellness strategy, and it's just not segmented and it's not fragmented, because you never know where you may need to experience some of the things that you need at a particular time. I had someone call me and they were dealing with a mental health situation and they were like, where do I go? And I'm like, okay, great, you haven't listened to anything we said, but let me give it to you. And so it was all around, it was taking them to exactly where we said the alignment was, and he was like, oh, I get it now. But that oftentimes, I think, I really appreciate, John, you saying meeting them where they are. That particular person hadn't thought about anything until it impacted them personally. And then when I was able to share everything, he had a different appreciation. So I think what we're doing now is the alignment as opposed to the fragmentation that we've always just known to do.
No, I couldn't agree more. And nobody anticipates bad things happening to them. And I would actually argue it's in those moments that employees are most fragile, right? And least capable of being able to go and reach out. And so when we think about that idea of how it's positioned in that element of employee experience when it comes to tapping into it, being really thoughtful about making sure that there is a triage point that allows the leveraging of the programs that are out there versus, again, just adding to the buffet of things that people don't know about.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to something you said, Stephen, about leadership and the emotional intelligence, the EQ. So I lead leadership learning and development for our technology and operations. And when they asked me to do that, I said, I know nothing about technology. And like, we know, it's okay. We've got that. So I do have people on my team that help with that, but it's like we need the technologists or even the operations leaders so we run stories like leadership resilience and psychological safety. And we're teaching leaders to be coaches and mentors and not care as much about the numbers. The numbers will come, but the happier and the safer and the more secure and connected your individuals feel, the more productive they will be.
Well, it sounds like we had a lot of great ideas, and this discussion could have continued on for quite a bit more with even more ideas. But we are reaching the end of our time. I just want to say thank you for listening. I thought this was such an amazing panel with some great ideas on different ways to think about employee wellness and different ideas for programs and how to navigate some of the more complicated issues involved. So I really learned a lot, and I hope that you all in the audience did as well. And please join me in thanking our panelists this afternoon.